Welcome to our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at the idea of gratitude towards parents.
Okay.
And unpacking a khutbah. And a khutbah is a sermon
Right.
that's delivered during Friday prayer in Islam. This one that we're going to be looking at today was delivered on December 22nd, 2024
Okay.
at the Lemukam Grand Mosque. And get this, the whole thing is about honoring your parents as a path to earning Allah's blessings.
It's a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
And the speaker in the khutbah really brought it to life, using stories and teachings from the Quran.
Right. It's not just like a feel-good message. It starts off with grounding this idea in a fundamental principle of Islam. In fact, it quotes a specific verse from the Quran that talks about how honoring your parents goes hand in hand with your devotion to Allah.
Yeah.
Like how you treat your parents is a reflection of your faith.
Absolutely.
Pretty profound when you think about it like that.
It is. And to illustrate this point, the khutbah goes on to share a story. From the time of Prophet Muhammad, there was a young man who went to the Prophet to complain about his father taking his money without permission.
You'd expect the Prophet to side with the son, right?
You would. But instead of doing that, he actually uses this as a teaching moment to highlight just how much responsibility and ownership parents have over their children's well-being. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Even their wealth is seen as something entrusted to them for the benefit of their children.
It makes you think about the sacrifices that our own parents have made.
Doesn't it? Sometimes we forget about all the things they've done for us once we're grown independent.
Right. The khutbah actually goes on to talk about this very thing. The kinds of sacrifices parents make. Think about it. They provide for us from the moment we're born. Food, shelter, clothes. Then they support our education, maybe even help us with big life events like weddings.
And so often, we get so caught up in our own lives and families that we forget to even acknowledge those sacrifices, let alone appreciate them.
It's true. The khutbah even asks this really thought-provoking question. Do our parents enjoy the same comforts and luxuries that we provide for ourselves and our families?
Wow.
Makes you stop and think about how we're treating them right.
Yes. It challenges us to think beyond just the material aspects of caring for our parents and to consider the deeper meaning of honoring their legacy.
That's such a great way to put it. And speaking of legacy, the khutbah takes a really powerful turn as it starts to explore the pain of loss. And what happens when we don't fulfill our duties to our parents. It actually paints this incredibly vivid picture of a child realizing their shortcomings after their parent has passed away.
Yes. And what makes this image even more poignant is a child's inability to even perform the funeral rites properly because they lack the knowledge.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. The khutbah uses that imagery to highlight the irreversible nature of death and the deep regret that can come with not honoring our parents while they're still with us.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how precious time is, and how important it is to express our gratitude while we still can.
I agree.
But the khutbah doesn't just leave us dwelling in regret, It actually offers us a path forward by emphasizing the importance of seeking Allah's forgiveness for any shortcomings that we might have had in our treatment of our parents.
It's not simply about asking for forgiveness, though. The khutbah highlights that true repentance involves action, actively working to honor our parents' legacy.
I see. So it's about taking those values and lessons they instilled in us.
Yeah.
And putting them into practice in our own lives.
Precisely. The khutbah talks about continuing their legacy through acts of charity and raising righteous children. It's about carrying forward the good they brought into the world.
And here's something interesting. This khutbah was delivered on December 22nd. And in many parts of the world, that day is celebrated as Mother's Day.
What a fascinating coincidence. It really emphasizes the universal nature of this message, honoring our parents, showing them gratitude. It's not just a religious duty, it's a human one.
It's a value that transcends cultural and religious boundaries. It reminds us of the fundamental role our parents play in shaping who we are.
Their sacrifices, their love, their guidance, all of it contributes to the individuals we become.
And the khutbah makes it clear that acknowledging that and expressing our gratitude for it is essential not just for their well-being, but also for our own spiritual and emotional growth.
It creates this beautiful cycle where honoring our parents leads to inner peace and contentment, allowing us to be better individuals and contribute positively to the world around us.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. So we've been talking a lot about the big picture, the overarching themes of this khutbah. What does this all mean for you, the listener, on a practical level?
Well, the khutbah serves as a powerful call to action. It urges us to reflect on our relationships with our parents, acknowledge their sacrifices, and actively seek ways to honor them.
It doesn't have to be grand gestures or elaborate displays of affection. Sometimes the simplest acts of kindness and appreciation can speak volumes. It really can.
Yeah.
It can be something as simple as a phone call to say I love you or offering to help with a chore. It's about just being present, being mindful of their needs,
Yeah.
and expressing our appreciation in those tangible ways.
What I find so powerful about this khutbah is that it doesn't shy away from the reality that some of us may have strained relationships with our parents.
Right.
It acknowledges the complexities that can exist
Yeah.
within families.
That's a really important point. It reminds us that honoring our parents isn't always easy, and there may be hurt or unresolved issues that need to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even in those situations, the khutbah encourages us to find ways to move forward, to seek forgiveness, and to strive to repair those relationships. It reminds us that these bonds are precious
Yeah.
and worth fighting for.
And I know some of our listeners might be feeling a sense of sadness or longing if they've lost a parent.
Yeah. For those listeners, the khutbah offers a comforting message. It reminds us that even though our parents may no longer be physically present, we can still honor their memory through our actions and the way we live our lives.
I love that. It's about carrying their legacy forward, embodying the values they instilled in us, and striving to make them proud.
Yes. And it's about finding ways to keep their memory alive in our hearts and minds, whether it's sharing stories about them with loved ones or simply taking a moment to reflect on the impact they had on our lives.
It is a beautiful way to think about it. As we wrap up our deep dive today into this really insightful khutbah, I'm left with a sense of warmth and a renewed appreciation for my own parents.
It's amazing how a single sermon can have such a profound impact. It really speaks the power of words to move us, to inspire us, and to connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And you know what I appreciate most about this khutbah is that it doesn't just preach at us, it invites us to reflect, to connect with our own experiences, and to find ways to put these teachings into practice.
It's a call to action, but it's also a reminder that we're not alone on this journey. We all have parents. We all have a responsibility to honor them in whatever way we can.
So before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a simple question, inspired by the khutbah. What is one small act of gratitude you can do for your parents today? It could be a phone call, a text message, a heartfelt conversation, or maybe even just a silent prayer of thanks. Whatever it is, let it be a genuine expression of your appreciation for all that they have done and continue to do for you.
Remember, honoring our parents is a journey, not a destination. Every act of kindness, every gesture of appreciation, every moment of connection brings us closer to fulfilling that profound obligation and enriching our own lives in the process.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the things that matter most.